drops onto a record for the first time, in a room full of people who have no idea they're about to hear something that will still be studied 100 years later. That's happened exactly 10 times in the history of recorded music. 10 records that didn't just top the charts. They came out of breakdowns, spiritual crises, a near fist fight between two legends, and one night where the musicians couldn't even get paid for playing. These are the 10 greatest jazz records ever made. And this isn't just a list of great songs, it's the story of what it cost the people who made them. Some of these albums came out of studios where nobody had rehearsed and nobody was sure the music would even work. Others came out of nights nobody expected to be remembered at all. A few nearly ended careers before they built them. What they all have in common is that the people who made them weren't chasing a hit. They were chasing something true, and the hit happened to follow. By the end, you'll know which album's most famous song was written on the spot, in grief in the middle of a set. You'll know which record ends with a piece so difficult that one of the greatest pianists alive nearly lost his composure trying to play it. This is exactly the kind of channel that'll get you there one story at a time, so stick around because the way into this music is a lot easier than people make it sound. Ella and Louis. Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong, 1956. A record player left on low in a living room on a Sunday afternoon, nobody dancing, nobody talking over it, just two voices trading lines back and forth like a conversation between people who've known each other for decades. Two of the most recognizable voices in American music, paired for the first time on a single record. With almost nothing standing between the listener and the performance. No elaborate arrangements, just two legends and a small band. That band, quietly, was one of the album's secret weapons. Fitzgerald and Armstrong were backed by the Oscar Peterson Quartet.
One of these mornings.
A group of musicians skilled enough to stay entirely out of the way of two singers who didn't need any help carrying a song. What makes this record different from almost everything else on this list is how effortless it sounds. Fitzgerald's clean, precise phrasing against Armstrong's rough, warm delivery created a contrast that neither artist could have produced alone. And the chemistry between them feels less like a studio session and more like two old friends catching up. Armstrong had already been a global icon for decades by this point, and Fitzgerald was in the middle of redefining what a jazz vocalist could sound like. Hearing them wasn't an obvious commercial move so much as a genuine creative risk, betting that two very different voices could somehow complete each other. It just needed two people who understood each other completely. That one proved simplicity could be genius. The next one proved the opposite, that a voice could carry genius even after everything else had been taken from it. Lady in Satin, Billie Holiday, 1958. A single lamp on in a room late at night, and a voice coming through the speakers that sounds like it's been through more than the person listening to it ever will. By 1958, Billie Holiday's voice had changed dramatically. Years of addiction had worn away the range and power that once defined her earlier recordings, and by most accounts she was in fragile health by the time this album was made. She would die less than a year after its release. The musicians in the room reportedly understood exactly what they were witnessing, even as the sessions were happening. This wasn't a singer at her technical peak, it was a singer with almost nothing left to prove and nothing left to protect. And yet critics and listeners have long argued that this record, limitations and all,
don't explain,
might be her most emotionally devastating work. The voice is smaller, but the emotion in it is enormous. Every line sounds like it's being sung by someone who has genuinely lived every word. There's a rawness here that her earlier, technically stronger recordings never quite reached.
lipstick,
Because a stronger voice has more room to hide behind. It remains one of the most discussed vocal jazz albums ever recorded, not despite what Holiday had been through,
cry to hear folks.
but because of what you can hear it costing her in every phrase. That one was a voice at its most fragile. This next one was 5 musicians who almost didn't get to play together at all, and came agonizingly close to being forgotten by history entirely. If you've got a record that hits you the same way this one hit Holidays listeners in '58, something that means more because of what it cost the artist to make it, I genuinely like to know what it is, so drop it below. Jazz at Massey Hall, the Quintet, 1953. A half-empty concert hall on a Friday night in Toronto, and almost nobody in the room realizing they're about to witness something that will never happen again. Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Bud Powell, Charles Mingus, and Max Roach, 5 of the most important musicians in the history of the genre, played together exactly once. This is the only recording that exists of it. Every one of these 5 men would go on to be remembered as one of the architects of modern jazz, and yet this lineup, together on one stage, happened a single time in all their careers. The concert happened to fall on the same night as a heavyweight title fight between Rocky Marciano and Jersey Joe Walcott, and most of the city went to watch the fight instead. The turnout was so small that organizers couldn't pay the musicians their fees. Instead, they gave the band the tapes of the concert, and Charles Mingus took them back to New York himself. Bud Powell, by several accounts, had recently come through a difficult stretch involving his mental health before this performance, and Parker was in the final years of a long struggle with addiction that would end his life within 2 years of this concert. None of which is audible in the ferocity of what they played that night. Because Mingus's bass had been recorded too quietly through the venue's PA system, he later went back into the studio and overdubbed his own parts on top of the original recording. And due to a separate contractual issue, Charlie Parker isn't even credited under his own name on the original release. He's billed as Charlie Chan, a private joke referencing his wife's nickname. It's now remembered as one of the most important live jazz recordings ever made, despite almost nobody being there to hear it happen. Proof that greatness doesn't need an audience to still count as history. This next one nearly didn't survive being played correctly. Time Out, the Dave Brubeck Quartet, 1959. A car radio playing something that doesn't quite sit where you expect it to. A beat that seems to stumble on purpose and somehow still feels exactly right. Dave Brubeck built this album around time signatures that simply weren't used in jazz at the time. 5/4-9/8-6/4, rhythms he picked up while touring overseas. The idea for Blue Rondo a la Turk specifically came from street musicians he heard performing in Turkey, playing rhythmic patterns unlike anything common in American jazz. Drummer Joe Morello, who joined the quartet a few years earlier specifically because of his rhythmic precision, was the perfect player to help Brubeck translate those foreign patterns into something a jazz audience could actually feel. Take 5 itself started almost by accident. Morello was warming up backstage, playing a pattern in 5/4 time, and saxophonist Paul Desmond began improvising over it. Brubeck heard it and asked Desmond to turn the idea into a full composition. Desmond, notably, was under a strange contractual arrangement of his own. A clause tied him so closely to Brubeck that he was barred from recording with any other pianist under his own name, which meant every one of Desmond's solo records used a guitarist instead of a piano player. But the album's story isn't only about rhythm. During this same era, the racially integrated quartet, which included black bassist Eugene Wright, recruited 2 years before this recording, faced open hostility from Southern promoters, some of whom demanded the group replace Wright before they'd allow the band to perform. Brubeck refused every time, and the group lost bookings and at least one national television appearance because of it. Take 5 went on to become the biggest selling jazz single in history. The band that recorded it had to fight just to play it together in the first place. And Brubeck never once backed down on who belonged on that stage. That one broke rhythm and broke barriers at the same time. This next one broke open in a single moment of Getz/Gilberto, Stan Getz and João Gilberto, 1964. An open window, warm air moving the curtain, and a song playing that makes the whole room feel like it's somewhere closer to the ocean than it actually is.
And when she passes, he smiles.
The song that made this album famous almost didn't happen the way anyone planned. João Gilberto's wife, Astrud, had never sung on a professional recording before. She was brought into the studio session almost as an afterthought. The original idea was to use a more established vocalist for the English lyrics, but Astrud ended up singing the part herself. Producer Creed Taylor was the one steering the project toward this bossa nova sound in the first place, betting that American audiences were ready for something gentler than the harder bebop that had dominated jazz through the 50s. What followed was strange and, in some ways, unfair. The Girl from Ipanema became a global hit, one of the most recorded songs in music history. And yet Astrud Gilberto reportedly received only around $120 for the session and no credit on the original album, while Stan Getz earned close to $1 million from its success. Rumors of an affair between Getz and Astrud during the album's promotional tour were later blamed by the Brazilian press for the end of the Gilbertos' marriage. Despite all of that, the record went on to sweep 3 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year, the first jazz record ever to receive that particular honor, a distinction only one other jazz album has matched in the 60 years since. That one turned an outsider into a star and never gave her the credit. This next one turned a moment of loss into one of the most famous elegies in jazz. Stories like Astrud Gilberto's rarely get the credit they deserve, so if you think somebody else needs to hear this one, that's exactly what the share button is for. The record where a band member was physically attacked for playing something nobody in the room had ever heard before. The album many musicians still consider the single hardest piece of music ever put on wax. And the record that turned a private spiritual promise into the most revered album in the entire genre. Mingus, Charles Mingus, 1959. A club stage late at night, the band mid-song, and a piece of news moving through the room quietly before it reaches the one person it's about to change everything for.
Charles Mingus had a very strong...
Charles Mingus and his band were performing live at the Half Note Jazz Club in New York when someone came onto the stage mid-set to tell them that saxophonist Lester Young had just died. Mingus didn't stop the music. Instead, according to those who were there, he shifted what had been a simple blues into an entirely new composition on the spot.
You got it covered? All right.
Grief turned instantly into melody. That piece became Goodbye Pork Pie Hat, recorded just 2 months later as part of this album, and it's now considered one of the most enduring elegies in jazz history, covered by artists ranging from Joni Mitchell to Jeff Beck decades later. The title itself is a quiet tribute to Young's signature accessory, the pork pie hat he was known for wearing, which he'd helped popularize decades earlier. Mingus didn't stop at grief on this record. Fables of Phobos, another track from the same sessions.
To understand is play his music and be yourself.
This next one turned a fistfight into a footnote in music history. If any of these stories are hitting differently than you expected going in, that's usually a sign you'd get something out of leaving a comment. So tell me which one surprised you the most.
Your drinks, don't rattle your ice in your glasses, and don't ring the...
Giant Steps, John Coltrane, 1959. A practice room at night, the same 8 bars looping over and over, and a musician refusing to leave until their fingers finally catch up to what their ear already hears. The title track of this album is built around what's now called Coltrane changes, a chord progression that cycles rapidly through 3 unrelated keys, creating one of the most difficult pieces of music any jazz improviser can be asked to play. Coltrane wrote and recorded this record almost immediately after finishing his work on Kind of Blue with Miles Davis, 2 of the most important jazz albums in history, made by the same saxophonist, within weeks of each other, pulling in almost opposite directions. An earlier attempt at recording the song with a different pianist was scrapped entirely. The material was simply too demanding to capture in that session. When the final version was recorded, Pianist Tommy Flanagan, one of the most respected players of his era, struggled visibly with the tempo and harmony. His solo largely abandons melodic improvisation and settles for outlining the chords just to keep up. The album's quieter counterpart, Naima, named for Coltrane's first wife, sits in stark contrast to the title track's Chaos, one of the gentlest ballads he ever recorded, tucked directly beside the hardest. After the album's release, Giant Steps replaced older, comparatively simple pieces as the standard test song young jazz musicians used to prove their skill, a reputation the song still holds in music schools today, over 60 years later. The piece a saxophonist has to survive before anyone takes their playing seriously. That one became the hardest test in jazz. This next one almost didn't happen the way it was supposed to sound at all. Kind of Blue. Miles Davis, 1959. A studio with the lights low, no sheet music on any stand, and 6 musicians about to play something none of them have heard before this exact afternoon. This is the best-selling jazz album of all time, with nearly 5 million copies sold, and it was recorded in roughly 9 total hours, across just 2 sessions by a band that had almost no rehearsal beforehand. Miles Davis didn't hand his musicians sheet music. He gave them sketches, brief melodic ideas and scales to improvise over, nothing more. The goal was spontaneity, capturing musicians reacting in real time rather than performing something they'd already mastered. Several of the takes that ended up on the final record were among the first the band ever played of that material. Flamenco Sketches was captured in a single take. The album wasn't without its quiet tensions. Pianist Bill Evans later argued that he deserved co-writing credit and royalties for his contributions to Blue and Green and Flamenco Sketches. By most accounts, Davis's response was to send him a single check for $25. Decades later, drummer Jimmy Cobb brought Davis a rare live recording of the same band from shortly before they broke up, hoping to share it with his old bandleader. Davis reportedly wouldn't even open the door, telling Cobb through the intercom to slide it underneath instead. Strangely, Davis himself was never fully satisfied with the finished album. In his own autobiography, he called it a failed experiment, saying it never fully captured the sound he'd been hearing in his head before the sessions began. The world disagreed completely. It remains the most universally recommended entry point into jazz for new listeners. 65 years after 2 afternoons in a New York studio, the record handed to almost everyone who says they want to understand the genre but don't know where to begin. That one is the album most people start with. This last one is the album Coltrane himself called a prayer.